This film began as a spec script written in 1995 by screenwriter Ross LaManna. The screenplay was sold by LaManna's William Morris agent Alan Gasmer to Hollywood Pictures, a division of the Walt Disney Company with Arthur Sarkeesian attached as producer. After attaching director Brett Ratner and developing the project for more than a year with producers including Sarkeesian, Jonathan Glickman, and Roger Birnbaum, Disney Studios chief Joe Roth put the project into turnaround, citing concerns about the large budget and Jackie Chan's appeal to American audiences. Several studios were interested in acquiring the project. New Line Cinema was confident in Ratner, having done money talks with him, so they made a hard commitment to a budget and a start date for 1998's Rush Hour.
Cap, I know you read the paper. They lying. You know I wouldn't do nothing like that. They over-exaggerate. You know how the paper is. They just want a story.
2 officers were shot. 1 man lost a pinky.
But didn't nobody die?
You destroyed half a city block.
That block was already messed up.
And you lost a lot of evidence.
We still got a little bit left.
Let them fight.
You're a wizard, Harry.
You're gonna need a bigger boat. I'll be back.
Death has come to your little town, Jim.
Hey everyone, I hope you can understand the words that are coming out of my mouth. And thanks for joining us for this episode, because this episode is G14 classified. So we are doing the first Rush Hour film. Chris and I will be digging into that franchise as we spoke on our last episode. And these are films I have not watched in a long time. I used to watch these when buddies would come over, middle school, high school, and stay the night. We, stay up late playing Xbox. We'd be playing like 2K or Madden or, Call of Duty or something. And then we'd throw on one of these movies in between and grab some pizza or some, grab some food. And we used to laugh so hard at all 3 of these movies, and especially this first one with Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan, seeing those two, like the mix that they bring. And I hadn't watched this in a very long time. This kind of seems to be a trend with me, with the Ace Venturas and now the first Rush Hour. So something about comedy films. I'm such like a horror fan, and like Godzilla and King Kong. Like I rewatch those movies all the time. Jurassic Park. And it's these comedy films that you forget how funny and enjoyable they are. And on the rewatch, there's just so much about this film that I remembered like right off the bat. Like as soon as it started happening, like I could pretty much go quote for quote with the film as it went on. So Chris, how did you feel about it? Your most recent viewing for this?
Yeah, I think my dad took my older brother and I to see this in theaters. I want to say I have the memory of seeing it in theaters. I would have been 6 years and a couple of months old, so maybe not. Maybe we just rented it and I'm having that memory of like feeling like I saw it in a theater. But we always loved these movies as kids. The first 2 especially. Like there's a gap in time there between the first 2 and the third one where I never saw the third one in theaters, but these first 2, like the second one, my dad definitely took us to theaters to see because we were already fans of this one. I don't know if this one was one we saw in theaters or not, but my dad, my brother, and I were definitely fans of these movies. And like the best part was always just waiting to the end and watching the bloopers and the credits, because sometimes that was some of the funniest stuff in the movie. But yeah, it's funny that someone said recently that Rush Hour was the peak of U.S.-Chinese relations, diplomatic relations. It represented the best that U.S. and China had ever gotten along, and it might be true. But yeah, I mean, they were fun because they were comedies and they were funny. But for a kid, you take the action seriously too, and so like they're very like intense. Like when they're gonna potentially like blow up a little girl at the end of the movie, like young me was like very enraptured, even though every adult in the audience knew like it wasn't that high stakes of a movie, and I think to your point, comedies often, because something that's cool is kind of always cool no matter how many times you watch it, or spectacular or what have you. But things that are funny, sometimes once you hear the same joke a couple of times, it stops being funny, and it's hard to make it be funny again sometimes if you just have it, have a repetition with it. Like, you can kind of kill a joke. And I think sometimes a lot of people with comedies, if you watch them a few too many times, you kind of kill the joke for yourself, and then it's hard to really forget them enough so that you're surprised enough by the humor to laugh again, and you're sort of sometimes laughing because of like nostalgia. Like, you remember how funny it is or how off the cuff it was, or maybe you're thinking like, wow, they couldn't get away with that joke today. So I think a lot of people kind of have a habit of not going back to comedies. I never really put comedies in my physical media collection. I was never buying Austin Powers on, Blu-ray or anything like that. I had a couple DVDs of some of them, but like once you get older, I was like, no, I want to keep like the big spectacular blockbusters and action movies. I'm not really interested in keeping comedies. And so I think that's part of a reason that I hadn't watched these movies in a very long time either. But they're classics in their own way. They're of their era in a really, they're really strong, good representations of that time of filmmaking.
Absolutely. See, I we didn't go to the theaters a lot as kids. I mean, we watched movies all the time at home, and I mean, there had to be something that we like really wanted to see to go to the theater. And my mom was the movie buff in our house. She's the one that always wanted to watch movies with the kids, and then my dad was the one. We always watched football, baseball, basketball. He got us into all the sports and stuff like that. He's always watching NASCAR, and then my mom was the one who always wanted to watch the movies. So
Yeah, I think I had a stretch there where because I was a movie junkie, so naturally, like if you're always asking me like, what do you want to do or can you do something, like I'm always begging to go to the movie. I was always begging to go to the movie, so I wasn't like doing a lot of other things. So I guess it was a pretty easy thing to do to like, oh well, that's what Chris wants to do, that's what Chris likes. And I think not to get real personal here, but I think with my parents separated when I was a kid, and I think I kind of was able to double up, every so often, you could ask, you might have just gone to see a movie with mom, but maybe you hadn't gone to see a movie with dad in a while. So you could kind of like getting two Christmases, you could kind of double up your bi-monthly trips to the movies, a little bit, so mom would take you to something, then you could get dad to take you to something. I'm pretty sure I did that without even realizing it as a kid.
I could get my dad to watch. He wasn't really too big on like the horror, but if I wanted to pop in like Rambo or Terminator, he liked like the old style westerns as well that were always on TV. And so if
Yeah.
if I sat down and watched one of them or something like with Arnold Schwarzenegger or something like that, he'd be all in for it. But if I wanted to say like, hey dad, like let's watch Friday the 13th, and he'd be like, I think I'd rather just go sit in the garage. He is not a fan of those movies.
Yeah, my mom would watch scary movies with me. We wouldn't like, I'm thinking 1999, The Haunting. My mom took me and my brother to that one. I was into scary movies as a kid, so she would kind of vet them to make sure it wasn't anything too like gratuitous or whatever. But like, my mom would take me to scary movies. My dad wouldn't. My dad's not really a scary movie guy. Although I remember seeing 13 Ghosts with my dad. Now I'm just digging up one memory after another. But if I'm thinking about it, the pro move would have been, if there was a movie I really loved, the pro move would have been to double up and get to see it twice. Once with mom, once with dad. I don't know if I can't think of any specific example of a movie that I might have done that. Maybe the Star Wars movies. I think I probably was able to pull that trick on one or two of the Star Wars movies where, both parents end up taking you to go see it. But like, that's cool with me. I love Star Wars, so that's all right.
Well, these are films that, I mean, when I was growing up, after they came into theaters, all three Rush Hours, they were played on TV a lot
Hmm.
back in the day, and anytime it was on TV, if we weren't watching something else, my dad would flip it on. So I mean, these are something that he would sit and watch with me, or if I wanted to pop one in, he would watch the Rush Hour films. He something about horror films he didn't like, but something like this, he would absolutely sit down and watch. And to this day, I'll go over to his house and I'll walk in and Rush Hour will be on the TV, or something of this sort. So I mean, these have definitely have a legacy for people, even people who don't watch them very often, just flipping through
Yeah,
the channels.
Yeah, my dad's retired law enforcement, so he always has a sort of like I don't know if it's not like an overt thing like, oh, he loves cop movies, but I think he has a little bit of a certain affinity for movies in and around law enforcement stuff. Like he certainly is always very quick to call out all of the nonsense and all of the BS, and that's not what you would do. That's not how it would be. This is ridiculous, you know. He's always quick to do that, but I think he has a certain affinity for stuff about, you know, cops and crime related things. I think my dad gets a kick out of that.
Did your dad once catch a bullet with his bare hands?
Uh, no, my father was shot at multiple times, from what I recall. Never hit. From everything I know, which I think I would know, never hit. Shot at, never been shot. Uh, I I won't go any further into what else he might have been involved with, but he was never shot.
All right, so he didn't arrest 35 guys all by himself. You know, we didn't have a battle between Carter and Lee, and
He's got some pretty wild stories, but I've not heard of a 35 guys at once arrest being made. My dad's a big gentleman though, 6'7". In his prime, he was probably pushing 6'8". So he's a formidable guy. He was on SWAT team for a while. He's a formidable man, but I don't know about 35 arrests in one night.
yeah, cheese and rice. I do not want him arresting me. Tell him to stay retired.
Yeah, he's retired, but yeah, he was a intimidating father to grow up with.
I believe it. Let me give you some quick background on the Rush Hour film here. This is got a pretty short one for you here. Rush Hour is a 1998 American buddy cop action comedy film directed by Brett Ratner and written by Jim Kolf and Ross LaManna from a story by LaManna. It stars Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker as mismatched police officers who are assigned to rescue a Chinese diplomat's abducted daughter. Tom Wilkinson, Chris Penn, and Elizabeth Pena play supporting roles in the film. And this film was released on September 18th, 1998, and the film received positive reviews from critics, and its box office and commercial success led to two sequels, Rush Hour 2 in 2001 and Rush Hour 3 in 2007. So there's some quick background on the film.
Yeah, Brett Ratner, famous for directing Red Dragon and X-Men: The Last Stand, which I think X-Men: The Last Stand is actually pretty underrated, you know. And then Chris Penn, everyone will know him from Reservoir Dogs. He's Nice Guy Eddie in Reservoir Dogs. And Tom Wilkinson is famously Falcone from Batman Begins.
This is why I have you on, because I wouldn't have made those connections.
Yeah, I can't. That's how my brain works. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse.
I think it is an absolute blessing because I love when people can rattle things off like that. Well, I mean, I'm excited to talk about this film. Like I said with the Ace Venturas, like I was ready to get into some comedy with us doing like a bunch of like Godzilla and Kong films, and then some horror films. Finally, getting to dig into some comedy and some other genres. So why don't we go ahead and get into a trailer for Rush Hour? Chris will he'll read us off a plot synopsis like a pro, and then we'll get to some numbers, some fun facts, and our favorite categories on the film.
Sounds good.
If you want the girl back alive, listen and do not talk. The drop will be made tonight, 11 p.m.
The amount will be $50 million.
$50 million? And who you think you kidnapped, Chelsea Clinton?
Detective James Carter loved his job just a little too much.
You destroyed half a city block,
That block was already messed up.
and you lost a lot of evidence.
Still got a little bit left.
But the job got a little too dangerous.
You have 29 minutes left.
I got everything under control.
I want to speak with my daughter. I was about to get his daughter back, and you screwed it up.
I would like one of my people to help.
Now it's time to bring in the master.
Please tell me you speak English. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? I don't want no partner, I don't need no partner, and I ain't gonna never have no partner. Did Kojak have a partner?
Yeah, the fat guy.
Did Columbo have a partner? No. You put your own bag in the back. I'm not a sky cat.
Beach Boys.
Oh, hell no. Don't you ever touch a black man's radio, boy. Yeah.
They're two cops with nothing in common.
Do it again. Like this.
Except the case
Hello, you have one more chance.
they can't walk away from.
Agent Carter is very passionate about finding your daughter.
Which one of y'all kicked me?
From New Line Cinema. The fastest hands in the East.
Wow!
Meet the biggest mouth in the West.
Just received a threat on the building. We ask you please exit the building. Do not panic. Did you hear what I just said? Get the hell out of here. It's a bomb in the building.
Jackie Chan.
I can't hold it anymore!
Just hang on, man. I'll be right back.
Chris Tucker.
FBI, take a picture. It's okay. Wait a minute.
Rush Hour.
We can hang in my crib. I will show you my hood.
What the hell did you just say?
On the last day of British rule of Hong Kong on June 30th, 1997, Detective Inspector Lee of the Royal Hong Kong Police Force leads a raid at the wharf, hoping to arrest the unidentified anonymous crime lord Jun Tao. He finds only Sang, Jun Tao's right-hand man, who escapes in a boat. Lee recovers numerous Chinese cultural treasures stolen by Jun Tao, which he presents as a farewell victory gift to his departing superiors, Chinese Consul Solon Han and British Police Commander Thomas Griffin. 2 months later, after Han takes up his new diplomat post in Los Angeles, Han's daughter Su Young is kidnapped by Sang while on her way to school. Han calls Lee to assist in the case, but the FBI, fearing that Lee's involvement could cause an international incident, pawns him off on the LAPD. Detective James Carter, a talented but obnoxious LAPD officer who is disliked by the rest of his precinct for his self-aggrandizing attitude, is tricked into babysitting Lee as punishment for botching a sting operation under the guise of an arms deal. When Carter finds out, he decides to solve the case. Carter takes Lee on a sightseeing tour, keeping him away from the embassy while contacting informants about the kidnapping. Lee gets into trouble at a bar when Carter tells him to follow his lead, resulting in Lee calling a black bartender the N-word. Several black patrons attack Lee as a result, forcing him to defeat them. Carter tries to prevent Lee from leaving him, but Lee makes his own way to the Chinese consulate, where Han and the FBI await news about his daughter. While arguing with Special Agent in charge Warren Russ, Carter unwittingly negotiates with Sang, arranging a $50 million ransom drop. The FBI traces the call to a warehouse where a team of agents are killed by plastic explosive. Spotting Sang nearby, Lee and Carter give chase, but he escapes, dropping the detonator. Carter's colleague, LAPD bomb expert Tanya Johnson, traces it to Clive Cobb, the man arrested by Carter in the earlier botched sting operation. Lee presses Clive into revealing his business relationship with Jun Tao, whom he met at the Fu Chow restaurant in Chinatown. Clive is initially unwilling to speak to the duo, but Lee shows him a picture of Su Young, causing him to relent. Lee then begins to earn Carter's trust. Carter goes to the restaurant alone and sees a surveillance video of Jun Tao carrying Su Young into a van. Lee arrives and saves Carter from Jun Tao's syndicate, but they are taken off of the case as the FBI blames them for the botched ransom drop, with Lee sent back to Hong Kong. However, Carter refuses to give up and appeals to Johnson for assistance to sneak on board Lee's plane, where he persuades the Hong Kong detective to help stop Jun Tao together. Griffin later involves himself in the case, revealing more about the HKPF's past with Jun Tao's syndicate, and implores Han to pay the ransom to avoid further bloodshed. At the opening of a Chinese art exhibition at the Los Angeles Convention Center, overseen by Han and Griffin, the now $70 million ransom is delivered, and Carter, Lee, and Johnson enter disguised as guests. Carter orders the guests to evacuate for safety, angering the FBI, but Lee catches Griffin accepting a remote for the detonator from Sang. Lee and Johnson realize Griffin is Jun Tao when Carter recognizes him from the Chinatown surveillance tape. Griffin threatens to detonate a bomb vest attached to Su Young and demands that the ransom be paid in full as compensation for the priceless Chinese artifacts which Lee recovered in his raid. Jun Tao's men start a shootout with the FBI while Carter sneaks out, locates Su Young in the van, and drives it into the building within range of Griffin, preventing him from setting off the vest. Johnson gets the vest off Su Young, while Griffin heads to the roof with the bag of money. Lee takes the vest and pursues Griffin, while Carter shoots Sang dead in a gunfight and saves Russ. Lee has a brief altercation with Griffin that culminates in both dangling from the rafters. Griffin, holding on to the vest, falls to his death when its straps are torn. But when Lee falls, Carter catches him with a large flag. Han and Su Young are reunited, and Han sends Carter and Lee on vacation to Hong Kong as a reward. Before Carter leaves, Agent Russ and Whitney offer him a position in the FBI, which he mockingly refuses, proudly stating that he is LAPD. Carter boards the plane with Lee, who annoyingly starts singing Edwin Starr's War off-key. A desperate Carter yells for a stewardess, demanding that she give him another seat.
Absolutely beautiful, my good sir.
I certainly hope you've got a file or folder or something with a lot of the material you've cut out of the gags and the bloopers and things. Because I feel like some of it would be worth having for like a special blooper episode or something.
I am going to start.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Because you got to think like an April, like, some kind of fun thing rolls around every now and again, and you can drop, you can be dropping like just like 60 minutes of just us like messing up or going off tangent or making a joke or something.
All right, let me give you some numbers here on the first Rush Hour. Rush Hour had a budget of $35 million with a total box office return of $244 million. So, Chris, what are our inflation numbers for that?
Yeah, the 2025 equivalent of that would have been a 68.6 million-ish budget and a box office return of about 478 million. So, imagine dropping 70 million on a movie and the film grossing $500 million. That's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big win these days. Certainly if a relatively simple action comedy movie of the modern era had a budget of something like 70 million and made almost $500 million, that would be a big deal in 2025.
Yeah, I don't know if this was one of the original like buddy cop movies. Do you know of any that were before this?
So it's certainly like iconic among the genre, but it's certainly like it was not a trendsetter in that regard. Because I mean, isn't the entire like Lethal Weapon franchise, Mel Gibson and Danny Glover, like didn't they have several, like isn't that spawned kind of more out of the 80s? Like weren't those sort of like the Lethal Weapon movies were kind of like a big example, and I might even be able to be schooled in that. I don't know the inside out history of the buddy cop movie, but I mean, this wasn't a trendsetter, but I do think that for that era and that decade, it's definitely like one of its own, unique spins on it, and definitely sort of, for that era, like it might even in the grand scheme of things be considered like the Rush Hour movies might be considered one of the last great buddy cop movies. I don't know.
And that's where I was going. Is I was wondering about the Lethal Weapons. Looking it up here, the first Lethal Weapon came out in 1987.
Wow. Yeah.
So that it was definitely way before this film's time. But I wasn't sure when it came to buddy cop movies what else we had besides the Lethal Weapons, the Rush Hours. Right up to when this released.
I've got a fun fact for you. A nice piece of trivia.
Go ahead and fire that one.
Or am I jumping the gun? Are we on numbers right now?
I got a couple numbers, but if you want to fire away,
we'll finish numbers, and then when we go to fun facts, I'll whip this one out for you. Then.
All right, I'll finish numbers, and I'll let you take it away.
All right.
So Rush Hour has a 7 out of 10 rating on IMDb, a 62% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, a 61% rating on Metacritic, and 90% of Google users liked this film.
Just take special note of that Rotten Tomatoes score. Could you repeat it back for us one more time?
62% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
On Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, alrighty. Let's put a pin in that. We'll come back to it.
I think we got the same fun fact here, but you go ahead.
Alrighty then. Well, if it's fun fact time, then Rush Hour was the catalyst for the creation of the review aggregation website Rotten Tomatoes. which is a very interesting fact. The website's founder was a Jackie Chan fan, and he was inspired to create the website after collecting all the reviews of Jackie Chan's various Hong Kong action films as they were being released to the United States. So in anticipation of Rush Hour, Chan's first major Hollywood crossover, he coded the website in 2 weeks, and the site went live shortly before the film's release.
That is absolutely one that I had for you.
That is fascinating to me. I think that is just absolutely, that's a very interesting legacy. That's a very unique and interesting legacy, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that appreciate and hate that man for what he did.
Well, and we've talked about on other episodes, like, what about wondering what films started or like began Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
But yes, that is absolutely one of the fun facts I had for you. As soon as you mentioned Rotten Tomatoes, I was like, uh-oh, Chris is going to get me.
Yeah, no worries at all. No worries at all. That's a great piece of trivia.
It is. I found that and I was like, ooh, Chris is going to love that. And then bam, you found it too. So
yeah, while we're on trivia like this, because I just can't help myself. Do you know what the first PG-13 movie was?
I do not off the top of my head. Feel free to share.
It was Red Dawn back in the 80s. Red Dawn was the first PG-13 movie, but the film that inspired the creation of the PG-13 rating was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, because people felt that it showcased too much violence for a movie to be merely rated PG. Spielberg then suggested the creation of the rating.
I knew somehow it was going to connect back to something that Chris knew a lot about, and Indiana Jones did not surprise me.
Yeah. I'm not an Indiana Jones expert, but I know that bit of trivia.
You know more about it than I do, so
fair enough.
All right, I'll break into some more fun facts for you, since you stole the. I don't know if that's the best one I had.
I'm over here talking about ratings history now. You gotta stop. You gotta rein me in.
That is a great piece of trivia, though, as we said. All right, I'll get back to some more fun facts for you. My first one for you here is the Fu Chow is a real restaurant in Chinatown, and as of August 2024, there is still a sign that states Rush Hour was filmed here.
I mean, that's a heck of a legacy. That's great, Gotta cling on to that claim to fame.
Hey, I mean, I'm sure it gets a lot of, people probably take pictures with that sign, and they go eat there just to like get a photograph or something with it and say they were there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
This one will be quite a conversation piece. So Martin Lawrence was the original choice to play Carter, but also Eddie Murphy, Dave Chappelle, Will Smith, Wesley Snipes, and Tupac Shakur were all also considered for the role of Carter in this film.
Oh my goodness. All right, we're going to run down that list a little bit slower. We had Martin Lawrence, right?
Yes.
So I mean, I can picture some Bad Boys energy there, All right, all right. What was next?
Eddie Murphy.
Okay. All right, he's a little more like chipper, a little more like upbeat, and okay. All right. Okay.
Dave Chappelle.
I mean, I love Dave Chappelle, so I mean, that would have been cool just because I like Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle was also almost Bubba in Forrest Gump. Like Dave Chappelle was almost in like a couple of really awesome roles. Like damn, Dave Chappelle would have had a lot of fun in this movie. But all right,
he's a different character.
Yeah,
as well.
He's a little more like serious. Like his comedy's not as like physically outrageous.
Yeah. Next we had Will Smith, so it probably wouldn't have been as funny as Martin or as Chris Tucker, but the action would have been a little more ramped up.
You can kind of think like back then Will Smith was doing stuff like Men in Black, so it's like you can kind of see like that's the era of Will Smith. This was 97 was Men in Black, so you can kind of see like how he kind of would have played it, Oh hell no,
Wesley Snipes, so that would have been a little different.
That would have been like not an action comedy. That would have been like an action movie. Like
Yeah.
Wesley, like you almost like you if you would have pitched like Wesley Snipes and Jackie Chan in like a serious martial arts movie in the 90s, that would have been big. 98 was the same year that Blade came out. And Wesley Snipes was just, I mean, he's infinite badass in Blade. I mean, Blade's just an awesome movie. But it's like it's crazy that it's like because I think Blade was August of 98 and then this was September and it's like, wow, given that consideration, absolutely glad that Wesley Snipes did Blade because that movie's legendary. But you know, gosh, that wouldn't have been as funny. It wouldn't have been as funny. I'll say that.
No, like the last two, Will Smith and Wesley Snipes, definitely more action.
Because Jackie Chan's playing the straight man in this movie, and like you can't have Wesley Snipes also playing the straight man. I can't see Wesley Snipes being like goofy,
Yeah, I don't really see that either. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
The last one kind of threw me off with Tupac Shakur. Now, I don't really see him being in this. Like, I mean, maybe like a DMX type character. I've seen him in a couple movies, but I don't know about Tupac Shakur.
Yeah, I've never actually because I mean, heck, he died in September of '96, so he died way before this thing. God dang, he was only 25 when he got killed. Sorry, I had to go to Wikipedia. That's like I've never seen any of the movies he acted in. I've only ever seen Tupac. Like I only ever know him from like the music and stuff. So like I don't know what kind of actor or performer he was or anything like that. So I don't know how that would have gone, and it's hard to think about how it could have gone considering that he was killed so young.
Yeah, you never. I always anytime I see those the fun facts or the trivia where it's like, oh, these characters were also could have had the leading role, or that they could have played Jackie Chan's character or Chris Tucker's character. I always like to bring those up because it's always a fun conversation piece.
Yeah, hard to imagine any combination or permutation working out as well as this one did, though. I think in the same way that sort of David Spade and Chris Farley were a great comedy duo, I think that Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan are a great action comedy duo.
Well, remember exactly what you just said for my next fun fact about you don't see anybody doing better with like together as a duo.
Okay, alrighty.
So the original casting choice for the lead role opposite Martin Lawrence would have been Chris Farley.
So
those two together.
So it would have been Martin Lawrence and Chris Farley in Rush Hour?
Yes.
Oh, so it wouldn't have been the East meets West kind of a approach.
No.
So this really must have been gestated as just like generic buddy cop movie kind of a thing, Huh.
Yeah,
it was that's how they did it back in the day, though. It was kind of like, you pitch something, and a lot of times you pitched it around the star. Like, oh, we're gonna do a Jackie Chan, they called them vehicles. We're gonna do a Jackie Chan vehicle, so Jackie Chan's gonna be all martial arts and Chinese about it, and like, oh, we're gonna do like a Chris Tucker thing, like, oh, he's gonna be like a funny kind of ridiculous kind of from the streets kind of a guy, Chris Farley's gonna be like, a mad fat guy, like or an outrageous goofball, So it was kind of always pitched around kind of the personality and the energy that the stars brought to it. But it's crazy to think that there could have been a whole different version of this movie that was like Martin Lawrence and Chris Farley would have been a total. That's not action comedy. That's just comedy. Like that just would have been a completely over the top, like goofball kind of slapstick thing, I think.
And then again, how do you handle?
Yeah, because
who gets kidnapped? It's not
you
the
probably don't have like the
and,
whole Hong Kong side of the plot probably doesn't exist in the Chris Farley Martin Lawrence version of it.
Unless you got Chris Farley, who was a white guy who grew up in China and Hong Kong.
Chris Farley in the Jackie Chan role. I mean, dude, I can't. That's a whole different movie. They're not like teaching each other to pull guns and do martial arts and dance moves. Like that ain't happening. That's like Chris Farley's like the lame white guy, and Martin Lawrence is going to teach him how to be like cool, like I don't know, like that's that kind of buddy comedy movie, and
Can
like,
you do this to the Beach Boys?
yeah,
Hell no, you
yeah,
can't do this to the Beach
exactly,
Boys.
yeah. So that would have been based more around Chris Farley's physical comedy and outrageous performance.
Absolutely. My next one for you here is this could have been interesting as Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan were previously considered for a different buddy cop film, Lethal Weapon 4.
Wow. See, I don't know the Lethal Weapon movies. I've not seen them. I don't really like it. It completely missed the boat on the whole. You ever sit down and watch the Lethal Weapons movie thing? No, never did. Like, there's just some movies and some franchises that it's like, no, I just kind of like, I'm aware of their existence. I kind of know the deal, but like, I've never really like sat down and made the commitment to watch them, Like, I've seen all of the Rocky movies, but I've not seen all of the Rambo movies. I've seen the original, of course, and the newer ones, but like Rambo, like 2, 3, I've never seen either of those, but I've seen every Rocky movie,
You haven't seen Rambo 2? Oh man, we got a problem.
No, I mean, coming from the guy that's like never seen like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and who knows what,
I've seen 2 of the Lord of the Rings.
Heaven forbid I've only seen 3 of the 5 Rambo movies.
I've seen all 5. I've seen 2 Lord of the Rings and like 6 Star Wars. I'm getting there.
Well, I mean, as long as you see episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's the 6 you need to see.
Fair enough. I won't judge you. We're here doing movies together. We're both learning.
Yeah, we can stack up our rosters, and I mean we can go toe to toe about what we have and haven't seen.
Hey, right, we'll do an episode about it. All right, I'll keep going here. I got 2 more for you. And Jackie Chan said the scene where his character first meets Chris Tucker's character was very similar to the first time the actors met in real life at the offices of the William Morris Agency. Chan said that Tucker was talking so fast that after the meeting ended, Chan told his manager, "I don't understand any of the words coming out of his mouth," a line eventually used in the film.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean that's great. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you've got any kind of language barrier, I can't imagine that Chris Tucker would be an easy experience to talk with. That he's a quick shooter in terms of that, and so yeah, so that's great. That's great. It does feel like the kind of movie. It feels like the kind of movie where a lot of that kind of the real world dynamic kind of dripped into the movie itself, and it just came, art imitating life a little bit. It feels like it's that kind of a movie.
Absolutely. And I lied to you. I said I had 2 more, but I only had 1. My last one for you was the Rotten Tomatoes fun fact.
See, you were saving it for a grand finale, and I wanted to shoot the biggest bullet right out the gate because I was so flabbergasted by that trivia.
It's a fun one though. So I mean, I'm glad you shot it off.
Every time everyone hears about a Rotten Tomato score, that's the legacy of Rush Hour.
Literally, Jackie Chan in Rush Hour is the reason for Rotten Tomatoes.
Specifically, Chris Farley in Rush Hour wouldn't have got that guy to create Rotten Tomatoes.
Maybe without Rotten Tomatoes, we'd have lived in a better movie world.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, I feel like a lot of maybe good and maybe bad decisions have maybe come from people obsessing over the Rotten Tomatoes score. Who knows?
On here on Chills and Thrills, we know what's a good movie and what's not. So just listen to us every week. Keep coming back, and we'll fill you in.
We need to have our own cool rating system. It's not tomatoes, but something else. We could come up with something.
How many chills would you give this movie? How many chills or thrills would you give this one?
I feel like we'd give up on it after an episode or 2 and just go back to calling things good or bad or whatever. We wouldn't keep it consistent. We wouldn't be consistent about it.
Just be basic. Maybe one day we can figure something out.
Yeah.
So with that being all my fun facts, who was your favorite character in the film?
I mean, you're either gonna go with Carter or or Lee, and I gotta go with Lee. You know, I'm kind of a little bit. I enjoy the sort of generally quiet but secretly lethal kind of a character. You know, there's a lot of characters in fiction that kind of meet that description, and so I tend to like characters like that. So I lean a little bit towards Lee, and plus his humor comes from a bit more of the fish out of water variety kind of humor, and I get a kick out of that too. So for this one, I was a fan of Lee.
So we were on opposite spectrums here. I chose Carter, so I'm glad. I'm kind of glad we didn't go with the same one
No, that's
here.
all right. That's
I,
all right.
and I chose Carter because he kind of, I mean, he kind of reminds me of myself. He's loud, obnoxious. He's a smart ass. You know, he. I mean, when I'm at work, I want to work alone 90% of the time. Let me throw my earbuds in or play my speaker. Leave me alone. And
Are we?
he seems to be like one of them.
You know, would it be bold to say that we are the Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker of podcast?
Not at all.
I talk way too much, though. I talk way too much to be the Jackie Chan of this dynamic.
Hey, yeah, I mean, he definitely gets a little bit more dialogue down the road, so
Yeah.
maybe you just got to warm up.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, it was easy to choose Carter in this film just for those reasons. He's hilarious. He's always cracking the jokes. You know, he's just a great character, and I think in casting him, I think they absolutely got it right. You know, Chris Tucker is phenomenal in this role, and he had to be my favorite character for this one. Just like I said, just because he reminds me a little of me, the loudmouth, obnoxious, like always cracking jokes. You know, that type of guy.
Yeah, Chris Tucker. It's a great performance for sure. He's you know he there's his energy level is just fantastic.
Absolutely, he definitely brings it in this first film. So I'll go ahead and I'll rattle off some of those quotes that I liked so much. I did have one that I mean it's always a back and forth. In these films it's kind of hard to choose just a single line, so it's always like a back and forth between one of our main characters and another person.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the main one I chose from Carter is he's talking to, I believe his name is pronounced Captain Deal, or he's the police captain, and he's like, 2 officers were shot. One man lost a pinky, and Carter goes, but didn't nobody die? And the captain replies, you destroyed half a city block. And Carter replies again, that block was already messed up. And the captain goes, and you lost a lot of evidence. And Carter just goes, we got a little bit left. And that he's got an answer for everything, and I love it.
I'm glad that you went with that, because that was one of the contenders for one of the quotes that I wanted to use. You know, so I'm glad. And another exchange that's a little bit like that with the fast retort was when he's talking with the guy who's smoking weed, you know, and he goes, look at this. That's nothing but a cigarette. That's a cig of weed. Well, it looked like a cigarette. You better have glaucoma. I do. You know, that's a great one too. But my favorite exchange though, because my older brother quoted this line for a long time, and I did not know where it was from. And it's Carter is talking to Chin, the food vendor there, you know, and he goes, you know, Chin goes, I'm no punk bitch. He says, I ain't no punk bitch either. And he goes, I'm no punk bitch. Like, my older brother would say, I'm no punk bitch in an accent like that, like all the time. And I never knew where it was from for the longest time. Like, we knew this movie, but like, it just never clicked. Like, it was years removed from watching this movie when he would still say that. And like, I just think that's a great exchange. If I had to pick one line though, that wasn't a single dialogue exchange, it's when it's after the cigar weed scene when Jackie Chan, you know, takes it from him and he just goes, that's bad for you. I don't know. It always catches me off guard, and I like it. It's kind of wholesome, and like I just dig it a lot.
One of the ones if I had to go with like one line, it's when they're both riding in the car, and like I don't know if they're getting ready to shake and like they're making a deal in the car. I can't remember exactly what it is. And Carter handcuffs Lee, and he goes, "You ain't the only one with quick hands." Whoa! That gives me a laugh.
Yeah, and in terms of just jokes, I love when little Soo Young is singing "Fantasy" by Mariah Carey in the car on the way to school. Like the hard cut to that bit is just so funny to me. And that song was made in the modern era. That song was made much more popular over again when Ryan Reynolds used it in Free Guy. Like that kind of gave that song a resurgence. So it was really fun to go back to this movie and see it used in a more contemporary movie closer to when that song was out, and like to see her just like, she doesn't have a lot of happy scenes in this movie, and that one's just infinitely adorable to me.
I wish I could remember like word for word what Jackie says to or Lee says to Carter when he's like, "You seem like you like to talk. I like to let people talk who like to talk." And I wish I could remember that word for word.
It lets me know how full of shit they are. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a little zinger too. I like that one.
Yeah, and like Chris, and like he responds, he's just like, "I like to talk, I like to talk." Like he's just like making fun of him. It's like, I don't know what the hell you're saying.
What the hell did you just say?
Yeah.
just little things in this film too. Like
I could watch those dudes be mildly annoyed with each other for just 2 hours straight. Like just have them do regular random day like errands and tasks and things around the house or fixing up stuff, just having to talk to each other the whole time.
Like this is one of those things that like if this isn't how you and your best friend act, like y'all aren't best friends.
Yeah. A test of friendship is how much it seems like you hate each other.
Really, like you just touched my radio. Yeah. I know you didn't just touch my radio.
Exactly.
I like when there's another one. It's just a simple one where Carter kind of like sits on his car and then like spins to get in it, and
yes.
He does the same thing. He's like, "I'm gonna whoop your ass."
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. Just that silent way that he's just like taking him off, and he's just like, "Man, I've had it with this shit." Just like that attitude. It's just so good.
So moving on from quotes, what was your favorite scene in the film? I had trouble picking this, so I'll let you go.
Yeah, it's tough, but I guess like because I mean all of the dialogue exchanges, I didn't want to just pick a scene because of the dialogue. But in terms of like the fight scene that I had the most fun watching was when Lee, Jackie Chan, is fighting at the end, and he's fighting while trying not to break any of the valuable Chinese artifacts. And some of the moves and trouble that he goes through to try and avoid breaking those things while still kicking ass is just wildly entertaining. And there's one in particular that he has a particularly extended sequence trying to keep it from breaking, and then as soon as he's done and has it steady again, someone shoots it and it completely shatters. He just goes, "Oh shit!" It's like it's so perfect.
And it is absolutely crazy that ending that's exactly what I was going to speak on is, his like the artifacts and like all the culture that of his homeland that he's like, they're there to like just take part in like admiring it and appreciating it. And then the fight scene there, that whole ending scene, they got to get the bomb off Soo Young, and the fights that Jackie has, and just there's even little scenes leading up to that. Like there's another line that I could have brought up in a scene where Carter gets kicked in the face and he's like, "Which one of y'all kicked me?" And the dude goes, "Me."
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why, but that makes me laugh every time. Which one of y'all kicked me?
Yeah, it was always a good moment. And like as a kid, I never got the kind of joke it was meant to be. Like, is he, like, because sometimes they say like you get hit and you're seeing double, and he got kicked in the face, and I was like, is it like a play on he's possibly seeing double, or is it just a straight play that like he didn't see which one kicked him? Or is it like a little bit of a darker, like he's doing the whole like you all look alike, so which one kicks me thing, And I think it kind of plays no matter how you want to read it. I think it kind of works on like 3 different levels, which is a lot of fun. That's probably why a lot of people laugh at it for one reason or another.
Absolutely, that, and wipe yourself off. You bleeding. Wipe yourself off. You dead.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's a great bit. And I always wondered if it was maybe written for him to also say, wipe yourself off, you're bleeding. But it's more of a one up to say you dead. Like I got you. Like you're not taunting him, you're just mocking his corpse, you know?
yeah, there's so much to. I mean, we could sit here and watch the movie while recording the podcast and just go from scene to scene and talk about like the greatness and like how funny these movies are and like what and just continue to talk about it. Like there's plenty of quotes and scenes that we could rattle off here. I mean, in
Absolutely.
an hour and a half.
100%. 100%.
All right, I think that is all I have for our favorite categories. Unless you have anything else you'd like to mention, real quick.
No, I mean we've been fairly thorough, you know, marinating in the joy that this movie brings. It's just a good time. It's a good old fashioned entertaining movie.
Absolutely. So I'll run through some final thoughts on it. You know, I'd I just think that this is one of those movies that again I don't know why it's taken me so long to rewatch this, you know, especially when on a night where I'm sitting home doing nothing. I mean, I tend to just go back to the same movies, same shows that I watch over and over again. And the two Ace Ventura movies we just did, this Rush Hour, and the two next episodes of the Rush Hour films that we have, you know, these aren't movies I go back to a lot. And so finally, when I do go back to them, it's like, man, I remember why I liked this so much as a kid. I mean, they're so much fun. There's action there, you know, in this film and in the upcoming ones. There's a little bit of adventure. Like it's comedy. You know, you got two buddies that are constantly butting heads with each other. So it's like you and your best friend are in a movie, and they got the quips that go back and forth with each other. It's just 90 minutes. It's a quick 90 minutes, 85, 90 minutes of a good time that you can sit down and watch anytime. And I thoroughly enjoyed it on my most recent rewatch. This was fun.
Yeah, and I've got a soft spot for any movie that manages to be like, you know, 100 minutes or less. You know, I think it's a lost art form to be able to just have a movie that's in and out and gets over with and doesn't waste time. And sometimes it kind of teaches you these lessons a little bit. You know, when you become accustomed to watching like a 2.5, 3 hour movie, then you see something that's like 90 minutes and how quickly they just will do a quick scene to establish a point and then jump to something and jump to something. And these dragged out movies these days feels like they always have to have the scene in between the scene to build up to the scene. Like, you know, instead of just showing someone traveling to a destination, they would show the person deciding they need to go there, and then they leave, and then they arrive. And, you know, it just feels like a lot of movies like this lost art of kind of editing and structure. It feels like it doesn't exist until you see one of these movies that's like, oh yeah, you don't need all of the superfluous like flap and fat that's on these movies, you know. Famous quote, you can shake a movie and 10 minutes will fall out. It feels like nobody's shaking movies these days.
Yeah, and I am perfectly okay with a 90-minute movie because usually during the summer when I come home and even some nights during the winter, you know, I do like volleyball, softball, and stuff like that. So I'll get home at like 3:30, 4 o'clock, and I got say softball at 6:30. So it's like, all right, I can sit down, pop in a movie or watch a couple episodes of a TV show, and then get ready and head out on my way. And the like movies like this are perfect for that. Or you're on a flight headed somewhere. You probably got a couple hour flight. You can watch an hour and a half, 2 hour movie on a flight. Like these hour and a half movies are perfect for almost any situation. You're driving up to the Wisconsin Dells, or wherever you live. You're driving an hour and a half away. You can pop it on and watch it as you go. The films like these make stuff like that easy to enjoy anywhere.
Yeah, and sometimes it's nice to watch a movie that's not. I love my genre movies, you know, I love my sci-fi blockbusters, you know, stuff like that. But sometimes it's nice to watch a movie that's just about like more or less regular people in the more or less regular world, just doing like regular stuff. Sometimes there's a lot of appeal to that. You don't got to do a lot of thinking about the rules of the world or the lore or the canon and continuity, and not everything's this big epic franchise. And it's just like, yeah, it's just a crime comedy, an action comedy, simple as that.
Yeah, because Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker are normal by any means.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? They're not superheroes. They're not, they're not Captain America. There's no giant monsters walking through. It's just dudes doing dude stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, definitely two dudes that we can enjoy for 3 films. So I mean, I would definitely recommend this. I think Chris would recommend it. And I mean, this is going to be fun continuing on with these. So Rush Hour, as we said, we will have 3 episodes of this, 1 for each film. Rush Hour did have a direct sequel titled Rush Hour 2, released August 3rd, 2001. And we will be continuing that on our next episode. And that is a whole nother animal when it comes to the Rush Hour franchise. I think that is the one I watched the most growing up as a kid.
Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with that, but I have not rewatched it yet for the cast. But I do feel like there was a lot of, when I went to rewatch this one, I'm like, there's a lot more bits and jokes and stuff that must be from the second one that I always remember when thinking of Rush Hour in general. So yeah, I get a feeling that I'm going to have a much more nostalgic trip with Rush Hour 2.
Well, these 2 came out before I had got into Rush Hour. Clearly, the third one had come out, and I hadn't seen that one yet. And that one made me watch. Like, I seen the trailers for coming soon. Rush Hour 3, and that made me watch the first and second film, and then I ended up watching the third. And coming up to that third film, I probably watched the first one once or twice, and then that second one, I mean, probably close to 7, 8, 9, 10 times. I when I was younger, I clearly liked the second one the most, and even after I watched the third one, the second one was my favorite when I was little. So after our rewatch, I'll have to see, if that still holds true or not.
Nice. Yeah, it'll be fun to go through. The third one is definitely the one that I think I only watched one time, so I'm very unfamiliar with that one. So it'll be fun to kind of stack them all up at the end.
Absolutely. So before we get out of here, Chris, as always, I'll say thank you for joining me. Again, as I always say, I couldn't do it without you, and I love going back through some of these older movies that I hadn't watched in years, and just kind of reliving the childhood a little bit. Yeah, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a nice journey back through the timeline a little bit. Movies that were kings of the VHS era for me, and now it's like, okay, we're watching them now 20 something, close to 30 years later.
Yeah, it definitely makes it a fun ride.
For sure.
So again, thank you. Thank anyone who's out there listening. Again, we have Rush Hour 2 on our next episode. So do your homework, watch that, and then come back, listen to us talk about it, and feel free to comment on our posts on Facebook or anything, and let us know what you thought of the film. So, I mean, we love the interaction. So again, Rush Hour 2 on our next episode, but until next time.
Pleasure.
Damn, Chin. Some greasy shit. You ain't got no better food, like some chicken wings, some baby back ribs, some fries or something?
Chinese food, no soul food here.
I didn't say nothing about no soul food. I said you got some better food. I don't want that greasy shit. How you gonna sell a big box of grease?
Chili
what?
Come on. I'm no punk bitch.
I ain't no punk bitch neither.
I'm no punk bitch.
Knock that head up.